Your son doesn't need more things, Mr. Davis. He needs you. But that would require you to be human. The words hung in the air between them. Lily and Joseph, the black housekeeper, Gary Davis, paid $5 an hour, and Gary himself, a billionaire who just watched this woman calm his screaming autistic son in 8 minutes while he stood useless in his own home. Gary's hands trembled, not from anger, from shame so profound it felt like drowning. For 4 years, Lillian had been invisible to him, a shadow in a gray uniform who cleaned his toilets, organized his son's therapy equipment, and somehow kept 8-year-old Jack regulated during Gary's endless workdays. He knew nothing about her, not her last name, not that she took 2 buses for 2 hours each way, not that she worked 3 poverty-wage jobs while her diabetic mother rationed insulin. He tipped his bartender more than he paid her weekly, but in 12 devastating minutes, everything changed. His $35 an hour nanny quit mid-meltdown. Jack spiraled into crisis, and Lillian, still wearing yellow rubber gloves, knelt beside his son with a tenderness Gary had never shown in 8 years of fatherhood. What Gary discovered next would destroy every justification he'd built his empire on. 3 weeks earlier, Gary sat in his home office, Excel spreadsheet glowing against his tan face. Q3 earnings looked strong, 18% growth, operational costs down 3%. Perfect. A gray blur passed his doorway, Lillian carrying Jack's weighted blanket and textured balls to the sensory room. Gary's eyes never left his screen. She could have been carrying a fire extinguisher for all he noticed. Later that afternoon, his accountant video called with the annual household budget review. Household staff costs are up 2% due to inflation adjustments, Marcus said, highlighting a column in yellow. Recommend freezing hourly rates to offset. Gary nodded without hesitation. Done. They're already paid market rate. The housekeeper, Marcus squinted at his notes. Joseph, she's been at $5 an hour for 4 years. She hasn't asked for more, Gary replied, already moving to the next line item. If she needed it, she'd speak up. What Gary didn't see, Lillian in the laundry room, phone trembling in her hand. Her daughter Keisha's text glowed on the cracked screen. Mom, the museum trip deposit is due Friday. Everyone else already paid. Please? Lillian typed back slowly. Baby, I'm trying. Maybe next time. She deleted 3 crying emojis before hitting send. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, pocketed the phone, and returned to folding Gary's $200 Brunello Cucinelli t-shirts with the same care she'd give her own children's clothes. If she could afford clothes that nice. Her hands never shook, not where anyone could see. The people you don't see are the ones holding your life together. But Gary was about to learn that lesson in the most devastating way possible. The screaming starts during the Tokyo call, Gary's mid-sentence about Q4 projections, when Jack's wail cuts through 2 floors of mansion. He doesn't pause. Sarah costs $35 an hour precisely for moments like this. He gestures at the screen, apologetic but not concerned, and continues talking. The screaming intensifies. Gary's jaw tightens. Through the phone, he hears Sarah's voice rising, shrill with panic. Then footsteps pounding up the stairs. His office door flies open. I'm done! Sarah's face is blotched red, her carefully composed nanny professionalism shattered. I can't. I won't. Find someone else. She's gone before Gary can respond. The door slams. Silence for exactly 3 seconds. Then Jack's wails resume, more desperate now. Guttural sounds of pure agony. Gary ends the call and runs. Jack's on the kitchen floor, head banging against Italian tile. Thud, thud, thud. His hands claw at his own face, leaving red welts. Drool and tears mix on the marble. Gary grabs the weighted blanket from the sensory corner. Jack thrashes harder, animal sounds tearing from his throat. The noise-canceling headphones. Jack rips them off, throws them. They crack against the sub-zero refrigerator. Gary's hands shake. 8 years of fatherhood, and he's completely, utterly useless. Then he hears it. Water running in the laundry room. Lillian. He runs, throws open the door. I need help. His voice cracks with desperation, like she's 911, like she's paid for this. Lillian appears instantly, yellow rubber gloves dripping soapy water onto the hardwood. She doesn't ask what happened, doesn't look at Gary at all. She walks past him to the kitchen, moves with unhurried purpose, assesses Jack in one glance. The sensory overload, the fear radiating off him in waves, the pain that has no words. She kneels slowly, non-threatening, 3 feet away from his thrashing body. From the corner near the pantry, she retrieves Jack's blue teddy bear, the one with the textured fur he's had since he was 3. She holds it gently in her gloved hands. Then she starts humming, something low and steady, wordless, ancient sounding. She doesn't speak, doesn't reach for Jack, doesn't try to stop the headbanging or grab his clawing hands. She just exists beside him, calm, present, safe. Jack's screaming continues. 2 minutes. 3. Gary stands frozen against the doorframe, useless, watching this woman in yellow gloves do what he's never learned. Then Jack's breathing shifts, stutters. His eyes find the bear. Lillian rocks it gently, exaggerating slow breaths. In, out, in, out. Jack's hand reaches out, trembling. She places the bear in his arms, stays close, still humming. Within 8 minutes, silence. Jack clutches the bear, exhausted. Lillian's still humming, her voice steady as a heartbeat. Gary realizes he's never seen his son's face this peaceful, not once in 8 years. And the woman who just performed this miracle? He pays her less than his car insurance. That night, Gary lies in his king-size bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep won't come. He reaches for his phone, opens his household expenses spreadsheet. The numbers glow in the darkness. Lillian Joseph, $5 hour X, 40 hours, week X, 52 weeks, $400 annually. He scrolls. His bartender at the country club made that in tips last quarter. His pool maintenance service charges $15,000 yearly. His car insurance, $2,800. The woman who just saved him, who calmed his son when a $70,000 per year professional couldn't, makes less than he pays to insure his Mercedes. Gary opens her personnel file. The sparse details feel obscene now. Single mother, 3 jobs listed on her initial application. His house, med supply warehouse, overnight office cleaning. Mother with type 2 diabetes? There's a note about insulin costs, $580 monthly, in her benefits exemption form. No health insurance offered, none requested. He pays her $200 a week. His watch cost $47,000. The Patek Philippe on his nightstand suddenly feels like evidence, like a confession. Gary's stomach turns. He sits up, swallows bile. The math isn't just bad, it's monstrous. And tomorrow morning, Lillian will arrive on 2 buses at 6 a.m., wearing her careful smile, and act like she isn't being systematically bled dry by a man whose son she loves better than he does. Gary starts watching Lillian, really watching. She arrives at 6 a.m. sharp every morning, after a 2-hour bus ride he's never considered. She moves through the house with quiet efficiency, organizing Jack's therapy equipment by texture and color in a system his occupational therapist praised last month, never knowing who actually created it. At noon, she eats lunch in the kitchen. Half a sandwich. She wraps the other half carefully in the same plastic wrap, tucks it in her purse. Gary watches from his office doorway. Why save half? He starts tracking her routine. She leaves at 4 p.m. sharp. Gary looks up med supply warehouse. Her shift starts at 5. Then there's the overnight office cleaning, 9 p.m. to midnight. 3 jobs, all poverty wages, no overlap, no rest. One morning, Gary finds his voice. Lillian, do you have children? She stiffens at the sink, yellow gloves motionless. Bosses who ask personal questions usually want something. My daughter's 13. Son's 10. Her voice is careful, practiced. They're good kids. That's nice, Gary says, and the conversation dies. He'll never know they've been eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week, that her daughter asked why they can't have meat anymore, that her son's shoes have holes she's covered with duct tape. He'll never know because he's never actually asked, but tomorrow he'll have no choice but to see. Another meltdown hits during Jack's speech therapy Zoom session. The therapist's face on screen goes carefully neutral as Jack begins rocking violently, hands over his ears. Maybe we should take a break, Mr. Davis. Try again Thursday. Gary's chest tightens. He has the Singapore call in 15 minutes. Just give me a second. He texts Lillian. Need you in Jack's room now. She's on her lunch break. The half sandwich sits wrapped on the counter. She comes anyway. Gary watches from the doorway as she performs that same quiet magic. Presence, patience. The blue bear appears from somewhere. The humming starts, low and steady. Jack's breathing slows. His hands drop. Within minutes, he's calm. Gary makes his meeting. Afterwards, sitting at his desk with Singapore still on mute, the pattern crashes over him like ice water. He's outsourced fatherhood to a woman he pays less than his gardener charges. He can't soothe his own child. Lillian can. Not because she's trained. She has no certifications, no special education degree. She can do it because she actually cares, because she shows up, because she's human in ways Gary's systematically eliminated from himself. Every efficiency he's so proud of, every cost he's cut, every emotion he's delegated, it's all led here, to being useless in his own son's life. And tomorrow he'll discover just how much his efficiency has cost the woman holding his world together. Gary's passing the laundry room when he hears Lillian's voice, low and urgent. Spanish, rapid fire. He doesn't speak it, but desperation sounds the same in every language. Mama, insulin, próxima semana. I promise. I promise. A pause, her voice cracks. Lo sé. I know. I'm trying. She hangs up. Gary hears her breathing, that deliberate composing. Then the washer starts again. He finds his household manager in the kitchen. What's Lillian's situation? Her mother? The woman barely looks up from her tablet. Diabetic, I think. They're managing. Managing. Gary pulls up Lillian's file again. Digs deeper this time. There, the benefits exemption form from 4 years ago. Mother's insulin costs noted, $580 monthly, 2 pens weekly, $290. He texts his accountant. What does Lillian Joseph clear weekly after taxes? The response comes instantly. $145. Gary's blood goes cold. She can't afford both pens. She's choosing, rationing. Some days her mother skips doses, and Lillian goes to work in his house, folds his $200 t-shirts, calms his son, smiles her careful smile. He opens his credit card statement. Last week's wine delivery, $847. The shame doesn't creep in, it detonates. And tomorrow he'll watch her fix something he would have thrown away, and finally understand what he's been throwing away all along. Jack's sensory ball splits open during breakfast, rice spilling across the hardwood. His face crumples, the pre-meltdown warning Gary's learned to recognize. Gary's already pulling out his phone. Amazon Prime, overnight delivery, $200, problem solved. But Lillian's kneeling beside Jack, holding the broken ball gently. I can fix this, sweetheart. Jack's eyes go wide. Fix it? This one's special, yes? You love this one. Her voice is soft. We'll make it good as new. She spends her lunch break at the kitchen table, the half sandwich forgotten, thread from her purse, needle moving carefully through the textured fabric. Jack sits across from her, watching every stitch with laser focus. She refills it with rice from Gary's pantry, ties off the final stitch, tests the seam. There! She hands it to Jack. He turns it over in his hands, squeezes it, runs his fingers along the texture. Then he does something Gary's seen maybe 5 times in 8 years. He hugs her. Thank you, Miss Lily. Gary watches from the doorway, throat impossibly tight. He would have thrown it away. Ordered 3 replacements. Never understood that Jack loved this specific ball, with its specific weight, its specific smell, its history. Lillian fixed it because she sees him, really sees him. Gary never has. And tomorrow, that truth will finally break him open. Another meltdown. Tuesday afternoon. Gary's alone with Jack when the screaming starts. That sound that turns his blood to ice. He calls Lillian. She's at Med Supply 2 miles away. I need you. Please. 20 minutes later, she arrives, breathless. She's lost 30 minutes of pay. Gary sees her glance at the clock as she passes, calculating what that costs. She calms Jack. Again. The blue bear, the humming, the patience Gary doesn't possess. When Jack finally falls asleep on the couch, exhausted, Gary can't hold it anymore. Teach me. His voice cracks. Please. I don't know how to reach him. Lillian studies him with eyes that have seen too much. The exhaustion there is profound. You want the truth, Mr. Davis? He nods, afraid of it. Your son needs you to be human, messy, present, vulnerable. She pauses. But you're afraid of that. You hire people so you don't have to feel things. You built walls so thick even your child can't reach you. Her voice isn't cruel, just factual, like reading a balance sheet. I can't teach you to love your son, Mr. Davis. That's work you've been avoiding for 8 years. The words don't just hit Gary, they shatter him, completely, because every single word is true. And tomorrow, sitting in his office at 3 a.m., he'll finally understand that this isn't just about Jack. It's about hundreds of people he's never seen, and the cost of his blindness is about to come due. Gary sits in his office at 3 a.m., unable to sleep for the third night. His company's employee wage data glows on the screen. Hundreds of Lillians. Security guards making 9-hour. Cafeteria workers at $8.50. Cleaners at $7.25. Federal minimum, because why pay more? All earning poverty wages while Gary's net worth increased $47 million last quarter. His COO's email arrives at 3:17 a.m. Q4 strategy, reduce labor costs 8%. Attached proposal targets facility services, food service, janitorial. Meeting Thursday to finalize. Gary's hands shake. He thinks of Lillian's mother rationing insulin, skipping doses. Of Lillian's kids eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. Of her working 3 jobs while he complained to his therapist about being busy. He types, new strategy, living wages company-wide. Full health care for all employees regardless of status. Minimum 25-hour. Effective immediately. Send. His phone rings 30 seconds later. His COO's voice is sharp with panic. Gary, this will cost millions. Millions. Your board will... Then I'll have millions less. Gary's voice is steady for the first time in days. Implement it. Silence. You're serious. Completely. Start with a full audit. Every person we employ, directly or contracted, I want names, wages, situations, all of it. It's not redemption. It's the bare minimum. But tomorrow he'll face the one person he's harmed most and discover that some debts can't be paid with money alone. Gary calls Lillian into his office the next morning. His hands won't stop shaking. She stands in the doorway, still in her yellow gloves. Wary. Sit, please. She sits on the edge of the chair, back straight, ready to run. I'm raising your pay to $35 an hour. The words tumble out. Retroactive for 4 years. I'm cutting you a check for $62,400 in back pay. Full health insurance for you and your family, effective immediately. Your mother's insulin covered indefinitely. College funds for both your kids, $50,000 each. Lillian doesn't move, doesn't blink. Then she sits back heavily and the sobs come. Silent, shaking. Her hands cover her face. Gary's chest feels like it's splitting open. It takes 5 minutes before she can speak. When she does, her voice is steel wrapped in exhaustion. Thank you. A pause that stretches like years. But Mr. Davis, this doesn't erase 4 years of exploitation. You can't buy your way out of what you did. Gary's voice cracks. I know. She nods slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her gloved hand. Then keep trying, every single day. She stands, walks to the door. And Mr. Davis, your son still needs you to show up. Money won't fix that either. The door closes softly. Gary sits alone with his checkbook and realizes he's only just begun to understand the depth of what he's destroyed. And tomorrow he'll start the hardest work of his life, learning to be human again. 6 months later, Gary's net worth dropped $48 million implementing living wages company-wide. He doesn't care. The number feels meaningless now. He's in weekly therapy, learning to regulate his own emotions instead of suppressing them into spreadsheets. Learning that vulnerability isn't weakness, that feeling things won't kill him. He sits with Jack during meltdowns now, often failing, sometimes making it worse with his clumsy attempts at comfort, but showing up, actually present. Lillian still works for him, by choice now, 40-hour with full benefits. She's training to be a certified behavioral therapist using the education fund Gary established. Some mornings they drink coffee together and talk about Jack's progress. She's careful with him still, guarded. One afternoon, Jack's melting down over a canceled play date. Gary sits on the floor beside him, doesn't try to fix it or rush it, just breathes, stays. Jack's hand reaches out, trembling, and finds Gary's. They sit like that, breathing together. Gary's eyes burn. When Jack finally calms, he whispers, "I love you, Dad." Gary breaks, sobs into his hands like a child. Lillian watches from the doorway, eyes soft but still guarded. She nods once, small, acknowledging. Forgiveness isn't guaranteed. Redemption isn't a transaction you complete and move on from. It's showing up differently every single day, even when everything in you wants to retreat back to comfortable blindness. Gary's learning, slowly, painfully, finally. Here's what you need to understand. You know someone like Lillian. Right now, someone in your life is working multiple jobs, rationing medication, choosing between rent and food, while you complain about being busy or broke, despite having infinitely more than they do. Your housekeeper, your server, your childcare provider, the person who cleans your office, the delivery driver, the home health aide caring for your aging parent. That person you pay as little as possible because it's just business. They're absorbing your convenience, your comfort, your lifestyle, at a cost to their own dignity, health, and family. Gary was a monster. But let's be honest, most of us are closer to Gary than we want to admit. We justify poverty wages as market rate. We ignore the humanity of people serving us. We complain about service while tipping 10%. We demand someone else's labor but refuse to value it fairly. This story should make you uncomfortable. It should make you look at your own choices differently. So here's your moment of reckoning. How much do you pay the people who make your life possible? When's the last time you asked about their lives, their struggles, their dreams? What would happen if they disappeared tomorrow? How long would your success last without them? Lillian doesn't have the luxury of scrolling past this and forgetting. She's working 3 jobs right now while you read this. Someone's mother is rationing insulin right now because their employer is cheap. Someone's kid is going without because that's just how business works. You can't unknow this anymore. So what are you going to do about it? Will you finally pay people what they're actually worth? Will you ask about their lives and mean it? Will you tip the person who serves you what you'd spend on something useless? Or will you close this, feel briefly uncomfortable, and return to comfortable blindness? Because here's the brutal truth. If this story made you defensive instead of reflective, you might be the villain in someone else's story. Comment below with one thing you're going to do differently. Share this story if it convicted you. Subscribe for more stories that challenge how we see the world. Or just sit with your discomfort. Sit with the fact that your comfort is built on someone else's sacrifice. Either way, you can't unsee this now. Lillian is real, she's everywhere, and she's watching to see if you're brave enough to change.